shake, rattle, and troll.
It's time for the award-winning Shake, Rattle, and Troll.
Yeah, kiss to everybody, grab your favorite pole. Me and the boys gonna shake.
A show for the serious fishermen as well as the novice looking for tips from the pros. Shake, Rattle, and Troll, brought to you by Bill Lute Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram. I-17 and Camelback Road since 1927.
Yeah, we got the power, we got the speed. We're running wide open on a midsummer breeze. Freshwater, saltwater, watch out, boys. Bass Daddy Don's gonna make some noise. It's me and the boys gonna shake, rattle, and...
Now, here's your host, saltwater fisherman, the man that fears no fish, Bass Daddy and Tournament Pro, Don McDowell.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'm Don McDowell. Welcome to Shake, Rattle, and Troll today. Thanks for tuning in and listening. With me, as always, my co-host, good friend, president of the ADA, JK, a.k.a. Special K.
Good morning, Bass Daddy.
What's happening, big boy?
It's a great weekend.
You're in a stellar mood today. Okay.
Yeah, one of those moods.
I get that.
You know, when family's in town, my son in particular, and he drags my happy butt all over the world, and I stay out way too late.
So you think you're 25 again?
I can't remember back that far, but yeah, somewhere in my 30s, and I can conquer the world like he does.
Yeah, don't even try. Hey, I appreciate you joining us today. We've got special guest in the house. I don't know whether I need to introduce you as the head of OGT, the chief of OGT, or just the OGT guy.
Probably just the OGT guy.
Okay, Joshua Hurst, first time on the program. We appreciate you coming down. I know you guys work pretty hard, and Sunday morning at 0600 is tough.
Yes, it is. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You know, it's absolutely my pleasure. You guys are a key part of the Arizona Game and Fish Department, dealing with all the issues, the legal issues that you guys deal with out in the field, and I appreciate what you do.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your support.
Oh, that's where he's from, OGT. See, that's why he was checking my tag as soon as I walked in the door.
You know what? There's probably going to be some zip ties if you're not real careful involved today.
That's right. I won't step in any quicksand either. So.
Yeah, no, we're going to lead you in just a hard, nice path today, and you know,
be very careful of that man when he says it'd be an easy path.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, like yourself, we talked about this earlier. You and I don't want to be in the director's office come Monday morning at 10 o'clock.
That's correct.
That's a bad thing.
Oh, come on. Right. Larry's got a great sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's all good. I'll tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to be talking to James Guggenhauer. We had another Gila County Angler Roundtable.
I saw the pictures from that. It looked like you had a full house there.
And we did. We had about 40 folks there, not counting the contingent from Arizona Game and Fish. A lot of guys were there. We're talking about the health and welfare of the Mother Lake Roosevelt, what the department is doing, and we're going to get into that in more detail. But I have to tell you, when we started this, there was no plan, there was no vision, all kinds of issues, and between Chief Cantrell and Curtis Gill, Dave Weedman, and now Amber Lee Jones has joined the fish group, and Chief came up with a vision. He came up with a schedule, and I thought, you know what? This is pie in the sky, but I want to tell you what.
Pie is here.
We have over 400,000 sack fry stocked. We have a plan. The implementation of the plan is we're about 6 months into it, and they're way, 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 way ahead of schedule.
It would be nice if there was any way you could selectively electrocute gizzard shad versus any other species.
Well, it's interesting. You know, every time we talk, the constituency over there is, I don't know how to put this.
Gently.
Extremely. Didn't understand the process. There is a process. They didn't know there was a process. You know, if you gripe and complain, things are magically going to right themselves. Well,
sure.
In the case of the affected gizzard shad, that's not the case. The stalking and shocking and all the things that are going on. There's a grad student Christina from U of A has been over there netting and shocking and doing a lot of good work. They understand now that, there's a lot of money involved to write this thing. We just got a check from Anglers United for an additional $25,000, which is a big deal, which brings us round numbers about $35,000 or $38,000 that the public has raised. And on top of that, there's another $50,000 that the commissioners have granted to fisheries to match funds. So
that's a lot of
pretty
matching
shortly
money.
we're looking at around $100,000 to stock fish. This time we're not stocking sack fry, albeit we're getting some more sack fry with from Florida. Chief Cantrell, I went back to the Bassmasters Classic about a year ago, February, and I was glad to see the chief there because he's able to interact with all the other
agency personnel from different
Well,
states.
actually, there was I think we had about 30 conservation directors from BASS bass clubs.
Oh, good.
Gene Gilliland now has replaced Noreen Clow. Noreen was the national conservation director and advisor for a number of years, and she retired and was going to spend her life checking things off the bucket list, and now she's got colon cancer or liver cancer, and the prognosis isn't good, so that's a bad thing, and our prayers certainly go out to her and her family. But getting back to it, there was a lot of agency, like you said, personnel there. There was a lot of industry personnel from Berkeley and Shimano and this guy and that guy, and they put forth a number of meetings, and Chris was able to interact with a number of different states, and because it's one of those things that we have gizzard shad. We're not the only one that has the problem or has had the problem. So, instead of trying to go through and reinvent the wheel, why don't we ask some questions and see what other people have learned.
Hey, it's a lot better than having those flying Asian carp. Could you see people on wave runners in Arizona with those puppies going by? Pow, 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 pow.
Yeah, that'd be exciting.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
There'd be a lot of damage going on.
So anyway, we're going to talk about that, about the 8:30 break. 8 o'clock, we're talking to our friend Tom Remington. You'll know Tom from his bi-weekly emails about all the stuff that's going on across the country, including the Mexican gray wolf war that we're involved in here. We're going to preview Tom's new book, very well-written book, entitled Wolf, What's to Misunderstand? And he's made it perfectly clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. So we're going to talk about that, and then we have roll call this week. Saddens me to have to do this. We have lost if my numbers are right, the 200th soldier from Arizona since this whole thing started. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But I want to get going with Joshua Hurst. May I call you Josh?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
And you may call me anything you like.
We do.
So, moving ahead, how long have you been with the department?
21 years.
Holy cow.
Been around a few years. Started off as internships in 1993.
Just so everybody knows who can't see what we're looking at, he's a baby-faced kid. I asked him if he started when he was 12. He's got a full head of hair. He's got that youthful look. I'm sure he still gets carded when he goes into bars.
You obviously haven't spent a lot of time at headquarters.
I've been there 6 years now. So
really?
Yeah. Really?
I've dyed my hair.
Nice. Yeah, I dyed mine white.
Gray.
Yeah.
That's right.
See, most of the guys who are in OGT who have to work down at the Ivory Towers, they wind up pulling all theirs out.
Absolutely.
I'm amazed.
Yeah, I sit on my hands a lot. So
that's a tough duty station at best. There's not a lot of you guys out there in the field. How many OGT guys are out there traipsing around?
We have one Operation Game Thief. That would be me. And then we have obviously our field officers that respond to the Operation Game Thief calls.
That's all the WMs, correct?
That's correct. And that's the wildlife managers that are statewide, in which there are few of them as well.
We got a big state and not a lot of guys out there.
That's correct.
I'm signed up on weekly emails from our neighboring states, and it seems that Wyoming has got one hell of a poaching problem. they just keep coming, and we've got an awful lot of stuff going on here in Arizona that maybe you can give us some insight on. But what were your expectations taking over OGT?
Well, biggest thing is just to continue to, push the program forward and let people know that we do have a poaching problem in Arizona, and it's actually a global problem. And how the public can get involved. I mean, it's the public is the cornerstone of this program. Without folks out there being the eyes and ears for the program, because we are understaffed, calling and reporting violations, we're really up against it. So we really encourage the public to get behind it and be the eyes and ears for our department for the wildlife more so than anything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't want to sound like one of the Clintons, but it truly does take a village to do some of the things that we're doing, and I think the community support for the Arizona Game and Fish Department is absolutely crucial. And that, Josh, that's one of our missions here, and has been for. We're going into, we're in our 15th year here, and we've always done our best to try to put the best foot forward for the Game and Fish Department, and get, like yourself coming down. I wish the public, and I've said this before, and I don't mean to sound redundant, but, I wish the public could know you guys, like John and I know you guys, working shoulder to shoulder. You're ordinary people doing extraordinary things for the community, and, it's just crucial that, the public stay involved.
Yeah, I know one of the things that I want to see, moving forward with the Operation Game Thief program, one of my goals is to stigmatize poaching. It's something that, is a problem. There's still a little bit of an apathy or an apathetic
it's a bad thing
attitude towards poaching, and the old mindset that it's the impoverished person out there poaching to feed their family subsistence wise isn't the case anymore.
We'll talk about that when we come back, because I don't think that's the case in most cases. Anyway, stay with us. We're going to thank some of our sponsors. We'll be right back.
For Santa Claus. What's wrong with that? I didn't say anything wrong with it. It's hard to beat. 12-pack of Bud, 11 wrestling tickets, 10 of Copenhagen, 9 years probation, 8 table dancers, 7 packs of Red Mint, 6 cans of Spat.
Up at dawn just to be out on the water. The weatherman said hot and getting hotter, but he didn't say nothing about it raining like hell.
They never do. They always leave out the raining part.
Yeah, they do.
All righty, we're back talking with Joshua Hurst from AZGFD, from the OGT department with JK.
There's a lot of acronyms.
From the ADA.
A lot of alphabet soup.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, you ought to go over to command and talk to those guys.
You've been hanging around too many military, because that's
I'll
all he's
tell
doing
you what,
now.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be able to recite it backwards come about January 9th over Coast Guard training.
And by the way, when is the facial hair going to become?
Our commander suggested that I download the
Rezas
Coast Guard regulations, pay particular attention to Chapter 17, paragraphs 4, 7, and 8, having to do with facial hair, the hair on your head, and tattoos. And I explained to him I don't need to do that because I already have those. So, moving right along.
I would pay dearly to see somebody capture that man and take just a buzzsaw to his hair and to his face.
Yikes. Oh, Commander can do it. Anyway, moving along. Josh, you were talking about, kind of the stigma about subsistence poaching. Do you think that's actually the case?
No, actually, we don't. It's
I don't either.
Maybe 40, 50 years ago, but times have changed, and that's just not the case. Folks that are out poaching now are doing it, for a variety of reasons, but very, very seldom is it for subsistence.
Let me ask you about one that we've kind of been keeping an eye on, and I haven't heard anything. You were here when we got the notification there were 4 cow elk popped up in 6B, just on the west side of 89A there north of the Oak Creek Rim. Anything ever come out of that?
No, we never did get enough information from the public, or in the field evidentiary value where we could make a case on it. So that's another unsolved case that hopefully we know somebody out there has information on it. We would hope that they would step forward and and be eligible for a reward. We pay substantial reward dollars. So,
what have you got on the books right now that you can talk about that you need help with?
Well, we have a case that we just ran on the SRT website of a poaching of a bull elk up in northern Arizona, up out of the Flagstaff regions, and we have not received any information on that either. But it was a bull elk that was shot in left leg.
Where was it?
It was in unit, I believe it was 6A.
Yeah, I think that was, yeah.
Is that around the Stoneman Lake area?
Actually, it was north of Stoneman.
Really?
Yeah.
Up by Munns?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Don't get it. Never have, but that's...
What other kind of things do you get involved in? I know there's a lot of dissension out there with the in the constituency, myself included, with the let's say, again, I have to be politically correct, the Forest Service road closures and the new mapping and all that kind of stuff. Do you guys get involved in that, and ATVs and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, our involvement is just trying to educate the public and and to try to get them to obviously operate their off-highway vehicles in a safe manner. And we're not doing a whole lot as far as the travel management stuff. I know that's a hot topic right now with the Forest Service and the Game and Fish Department, and certainly something that our officers are aware of. And I know it does pose a problem for sportsmen that are out recreating, trying to know exactly where they're at and where they can and can't go.
You mentioned it too, that like the bull elk that was your dad or your father-in-law?
It was my father's good friend of his.
Okay, he depending on the forest you're in, depends on whether or not you can drive a vehicle and how close you can get with that vehicle to the downed big game animal.
Yeah, that's correct. Consistency statewide would be certainly be helpful.
Well, come on. There's what, 7 kingdoms in Arizona called national forests.
Oh,
Each
yeah.
one has their lord and master, which is called the head district ranger.
Josh, you're going to have to excuse me. This is the part when he gets started on that. I'm just going to go get a donut. I'll be back in a few minutes.
That's right. I'll go with you.
There you go.
But I'm sorry. It's just a matter that I understand that you have to have regional applications for laws that make sense in your particular kingdom. But this, in Arizona, it's crazy. You need to take all the books with you, depending on which national forest you're hunting in, to determine what they have made law, what they haven't, how far you can, where you can't. I mean, we have to become actually mini attorneys to go out there and do it the right way.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to keep up on, and depending on what land status you're on, whether it be BLM or Forest Service, I mean, everything's, it's a little bit different, so it makes it tough for the folks that are out there recreating.
Let's put this into perspective for the folks that are listening. You guys are actually the top cops in Arizona. You've got unilateral jurisdiction everywhere for most everything. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Yikes.
Well, and then you take a look at the National Forest. The National Forest Service has maybe one law enforcement person per forest?
Yeah, they have. I'm not exactly sure of their entire structure, but I know they do have, law enforcement officers, in their ranger districts, and they have generally more than one, so.
Except that they're spread out much thinner. You guys are really the enforcement that handles most of the stuff.
And we're thin as well, but yeah, we definitely have folks that are dedicated to certain portions of the state that you will run into out there.
Josh, in your mind, what's the biggest issue that your WM's faced as far as just nuisance and petty violations that you have to put up with on a regular basis?
Well, it's licensing. I think is one of the biggest things that they deal with. That we issue probably the most citations for are folks that are taking wildlife without the proper licenses, and that would be statewide. That would probably be the most common.
When we start talking about poaching, the game animals, game animals come to mind, but there's fish poachers out there as well.
Absolutely, yeah. That's
creel
the thing.
limits is I think the term that we use most.
Yeah, that's the thing is, folks associate poaching with big game, and that, because that's the thing that we generally publicize. But, folks, one of the raptors, hawks, owls, those are things that are poached, fairly frequently at a high rate, as well as fish. Folks taking over limits of fish or fishing by unlawful methods. When fishermen go out, they may go out 4 or 5 times and not have a whole lot of success. And when they go out and get into them, on occasion, they'll tend to, take an over limit. Certainly a generalization, but the folks that we deal with that are, violating, that tends to be the trend.
Hypothetically, who's the biggest offender? Folks in boats or shore fishermen?
Well, I don't know. That would be, I've spent most of my time, on land patrol, so, I've probably checked more shore fishermen than I have boat fishermen. But
I'm glad he doesn't have a boat.
I am too.
Cool. I'll send you the schedule. Some guys I want you to visit with. Hey, we're going to stand down and thank some of our sponsors. If you're needing a ride, guess what? I-17 and Bell Road. I-17 in West Camelback since 1927. Get with it.
Wake up, Donnie.
Bill Luke Chrysler, Jeep and Dodge. I'm Don McDowell with
Special K.
And
Joshua.
We'll be right back.
Rivers wide, white t-shirt, ain't afraid to work. Now what are you looking at, asshole smirk?
All righty, we are back. Yeah, man. Josh, help me out with this, and let's try to identify the process. If I want to be a good witness in reporting this, is my phone number and my name going to get put all over the place, or is it a confidential process when I call OGT?
It is a confidential process, and you can choose, whether or not you want to remain confidential or anonymous, for that matter.
Oh, really?
And, confidential and anonymous are two different things, and people often confuse them. Anonymous is nameless. We don't necessarily know, who you are, but you're reporting information or intelligence, for that matter. And those are two different things also we can discuss a little bit about. But you absolutely can remain confidential. Confidential means that we know your name, but we're not going to, blast it out and let everybody know.
Until the reward's paid.
The reward, and that is important, the reward payment portion. But once again, that is going to remain confidential. Myself, and the dispatchers are the ones that generally take the calls and handle them initially. We're the folks that are going to know who it is.
Okay, we've got a toll-free OGT number, and I think that's important to have in your smartphone, cell phone, whatever kind of phone you have. And, being a good witness, what do I need to pay attention to other than the infraction?
Well, certainly location is key. If you can get a GPS coordinate, we certainly recommend that. That's valuable for the officer to do, good follow-up in the field. Vehicle descriptions if the individuals are associated with the vehicle, and not just a general description, the white Ford pickup truck or the white pickup truck out in the woods and the guy's wearing camo. I mean, gosh, that describes
yeah, boy.
just about everybody.
A white van.
The white van.
It sounds like our profiling right there. Yeah.
So, we want to good descriptors of the vehicle, whether it has, a luggage rack on it or, a winch or a, push bar or something that is distinguishable that you could pick it out of a lineup. If an officer were to, be going through the woods trying to go through camps and trying to, efficiently work through this case, that they would be able to have some discernible characteristics off that vehicle that they could identify it. And the same goes with the individual. Clothing is great, but oftentimes, I know myself, when I get back into camp after hiking, you start, disrobing a little bit, trying to cool your body down or whatever, and so you're not wearing the same thing you were in the woods when you did it. So, facial hair,
that's a good, let's start talking about facial hair now.
Eyeglasses, maybe if the individual walks with a certain, gait, those are all, body characteristics, whether
you mean
they're
the limp
small.
on my left side?
Yeah, that's right. We're hitting everything on you right now. That's right. I'm looking at you as I'm describing.
You are. That's what's right. Funny is he's describing Don to it.
I have to tell you, the poaching incident up in 6B, that information I think was brought to OGT's attention on Friday or Saturday. Monday morning, I get a call from Ken Dinkwell. He says, I know you had a elk tag in 6B. What part of 6B were you hunting? I'm going to be right over.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
kin for you.
You guys know everything.
Yeah. And so being a good witness, we obviously tell people not to approach anybody, that we don't put themselves in harm's way.
That's an issue. I'm
it
telling
is.
you. You see somebody doing something wrong, you go, hey, come here.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
Confrontational sitting across from you.
And, and one of the things about that, and it doesn't even just go with confrontations in the field or individuals approaching other individuals in the field, but, you allow our officers to do that. We're trained to deal with those types of situations. And the other thing is even online, we get a lot of reports of violations online, and people want to do the right thing, and then they let the individual know, hey, you can't do that. And next thing you know, their posts are down, and it decreases our ability to investigate it further. And look into it, So we encourage people to let us know.
Yeah, social media is
and let us know.
A heck of a tool for law enforcement. I think one of the things that is helped bring poaching to the forefront is Northwoods Law. Chris Simmons, and you know Chris, and
Absolutely.
we've had Chris and a couple of the other fellows from Maine on the program, and it's kind of I look at that program like Deadliest Catch. If you watch Deadliest Catch to any degree, you know where your dinner just came from. That's hardball stuff, and I think profiling some of the stuff that goes on in Maine is pretty indicative of what goes on every place else, including Arizona.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And like we said earlier, that poaching is it's a global problem. I mean, it's not just happening in Arizona. You mentioned, I think it was Wyoming earlier. They have a major poaching problem. I mean, they have wildlife populations that are, that are doing a little better than our populations here. So the ability and just the numbers of animals that are out there to poach are more prevalent. So when there's more opportunity, there's more poaching.
You know what? We're talking about that. With social media now and the availability of tools that we have, all our smartphones, I had a hunter that I was helping up in the 3C hunt, the late season rifle bull hunt, and I didn't hear a single shot other than the two that he took in the 2 days that we were out there. But there was one guy, and he was hunting with his two sons, and he shot a 5x5, and basically he shot it on the res side of the fence. And it's where the fence drops down through some of those old burns. He was reported in by 3 different people with cameras and locations, and Game and Fish came out, and they supposedly ticketed him, and then it turns out there wasn't one 5x5 down, there were 2. Uh-oh. And so he was cited by the White Mountain Apache tribe, he was cited by Game and Fish, and he's got a whole lot of other stuff that's coming in.
Yeah, and with the cell phones and the smart devices that folks have, if you can videotape the individual in the field, or that's good information, or use your notes functions, and it's a good opportunity to capture information.
Okay, let's take this a step further. Describe the process. I get caught doing something bad. I get a citation, and I have to go to court. What happens after that?
Well, if it's a revocable offense, then you may be submitted, for revocation, and then at that point you'd go before the Game and Fish Commission and for a revocation hearing, and you'd be looking at possibly a civil assessment for the loss of the damages to the state of Arizona.
So I can get fined both in court and by the commission?
Correct. It'd be a criminal portion and then a civil assessment. And the civil assessment isn't punitive. It's simply the state trying to recover the damages for the loss of that wildlife to the state. And wildlife certainly has greater value than just the monetary value that we place on it. There's,
Absolutely.
Aesthetic values and all those other things that, that are a lot of our non-consumptive users, find a great value in wildlife that are just out wildlife viewing, bird watching, other forms of recreation as well.
Is that civil assessment set by statute?
Yes, it is. There are minimums depending on what species of wildlife.
Is there a maximum?
Actually, no, because I know of one bull elk that cost the gentleman over $16,000.
Yeah, that's correct. I think that's our highest civil assessment on a single animal. It was a
it seems that
large bull elk.
Personally, I'd like to see the civil assessment and the judicial assessment a little bit higher. The price that the judge puts on, let's say, a bull elk is ridiculously low.
Yeah, but when you come in front of the commission, if it's gauged to be a trophy animal, they have a $5,000 minimum, and you lost 5 years $8,000 now. Okay, so
Yikes.
$8,000 for the animal. Then you've got a 5-year revocation. Not only is that a 5-year revocation, but all those states that offer reciprocity are part of the Western Compact. You're looking at 38 or 40 some states that you cannot hunt in.
How many states are we up to?
There's 41 in the
41
International
now.
Wildlife Violator Compact. And, that's your provincial authorities, too. Our folks to the north there in Canada.
Yeah, Canada participates with us. You're not going up there either.
Yeah.
That's a bad thing.
We have a few holdouts here in the States, but, for the most part, a lot of folks are on board with it. So it impacts you. The criminal side of things, that's one of the things I think that we need to try to do a better job at is, are letting our courts know that, poaching is a problem and the value that wildlife has. It's one of our most treasured resources in Arizona. And the courts are busy. They have, burglaries and robberies and other things that they're dealing with that take precedence. And poaching, like I said, it needs to be stigmatized because it's a big problem.
Yeah, I've kind of seen that same issue. We're talking about clean, drain, and dry protocols and citations, and that's one of the issues that I've talked to a couple of judges, and the deal is, he goes, I'm dealing with like you said, burglaries and
mother apers and father stavers,
and all this thing, and I got to deal with a guy that didn't pull his plug. I go, yeah, you do. It's a big deal. He goes, why? Yeah.
Well, and with the poaching, one of the things that we can start articulating to folks is, the global, it's environmental crimes, they value at a $213 billion black market in environmental crimes, whether it be timber poaching, whether it be the ivory trade, caviar from, Fish Row, and because of the low fines and the criminal side of things not being, maybe as important as, some of us believe it should be, our terrorist groups, cartels are beginning to get into the wildlife smuggling game
Absolutely they are.
Because the risk reward is great. The money's just as good as the drug game, and the fines are minimal. And the chance of being caught because you're doing it out in remote areas where there's very few witnesses.
What did you put on that, the price tag?
The environmental crimes, $213 billion dollars.
I knew we were in the wrong business.
That's with a B.
Yeah, that's with a B. And that's timber. That's all of those things. So,
yeah. All righty, good information. Hey, when we come back from break, we're going to talk about roll call. You need to sit up and pay attention to this. It's heartbreaking today. We'll be right back.
She pulled and tugged and yelled, "What's wrong?" I said, "Baby, he's a big and that cat's real."
The embers glowed softly and in their dim light. I gazed round the room and cherished the sight. My wife was asleep, her head on my chest. My daughter beside me, angelic in rest. Outside the snow fell, a blanket of white, transforming the yard to a winter delight. The sparkling lights in the tree, I believe, completed the magic that was Christmas Eve. My eyelids were heavy, my breathing was deep. Secure and surrounded by love I would sleep, in perfect contentment, or so it would seem. So slumbered, perhaps I started to dream. The sound wasn't loud, and it wasn't too near, but I opened my eyes when it tickled my ear. Perhaps just a cough, I didn't quite know. Then the sounds of footsteps outside in the snow. My soul gave a tremble, I struggled to hear, and I crept to the door to see who was near. Standing out in the cold and the dark of night, a lone figure, his face weary and tight. A soldier, I puzzled, some 20 years old, perhaps a trooper huddled out in the cold. Alone in the dark, he looked up and smiled, standing watch over me, my wife, and my child. "What are you doing?" I asked without fear. "Come in here this moment, it's freezing out here. Put down your pack, push the snow from your sleeve. You should be home on a cold Christmas Eve." For barely a moment I saw his eyes shift away from the cold and the snow blown in drifts to the window that danced with a warm firelight. "I'm out here by choice. I'm here every night. It's my duty to stand at the front of the line that separates you from the darkest of times. No one had asked, begged, or implored me. I'm proud to stand here like my fathers before me. My gramps died in Europe on a day in December. That's a Christmas my grandma will always remember. I've not seen my own son in more than a while, but my wife sends me pictures. He sure got her smile. Then he bent and he carefully pulled from his bag the red, white, and blue American flag. I can live through the cold and being alone, away from my family, my house, and my home. I can stand at my post through the rain and the sleet. I can sleep in a foxhole with little to eat. I can carry the weight of killing another or lay down my life with my sister and brother. Who stands at the front against any and all to ensure for all time this flag will not fall. So go back inside and harbor no fright. Your family is waiting and I'll be all right. But isn't there something I can do, at least give you money I ask, or prepare a feast for you? It seems all too little for all that you've done, for being away from your wife and your son. Then his eyes welled a tear that held no regret. Just tell us you love us and will never forget. To fight for our rights back at home while we're gone. To stand your own watch no matter how long. For when we come home, either standing or dead, to know you remembered we fought and we bled is payment enough. And with that we will trust that we mattered to you as you have mattered to us. We have roll call for December 21st, and as I stated before, we want to recognize our 200th soldier, resident Arizona soldier that's been killed in action. John, if you would.
Army Sergeant First Class Ramon S. Morris died December 12, 2014, serving during Operation Enduring Freedom. He was 37 years old, of New York, New York. Assigned to the 2nd Squad, 3rd Cavalry Regiment, 1st Cavalry Division out of Fort Hood, Texas. He died December 12th in Parwan Province, Afghanistan, of wounds caused by an improvised explosive device.
And our resident soldier is Army Specialist Wyatt J. Martin, died on December 12th, 2014, serving during Operation Enduring Freedom, 22 years old, Mesa, Arizona. Died on the 12th in Parwan Province, Afghanistan, of wounds caused by an improvised explosive device. He was assigned to the 2nd Squad, 3rd Cavalry Regiment, 1st Cavalry Division out of Fort Hood, Texas. We'll be right back.
Play me done.
A show for the serious fishermen as well as the novice looking for tips from the pros. Shake, Rattle, and Troll, brought to you by Bill Lute Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram. I-17 and Camelback Road since 1927.
Yeah, we got the power, we got the speed. We're running wide open on a midsummer breeze. Fresh water, salt water, watch out, boy. Bass Daddy Don's gonna make some noise. It's me and the boys gonna shake, rattle, and
Now, here's your host, saltwater fisherman, the man that fears no fish, Bass Daddy and Tournament Pro, Don McDowell.
All righty, hey, we're back. Thanks for joining us for the second hour of Shake, Rattle, and Troll. Our special guest in this week, Joshua Hurst from AZGFD, and Operation Game Thief. JK's here with us, president of the ADA, and some other things we can't talk about today.
Thank you.
I mean, being the Christmas season and all. Question, do Hungarian gypsies celebrate Christmas?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Chickens.
All right, that's good stuff. As promised, our next special guest, Tom Remington. You've heard about Tom Remington. You've heard Tom Remington on the show, and hopefully you're signed up for his weekly emails and all the good information.
Daily emails.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. Hey, Tom, Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining us. How are you, buddy?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Well, we appreciate that, and thanks for playing along with us. Hey, I have to thank you. I got my Christmas gift from my brother. I didn't know it was coming.
Okay.
I have my new version, autographed version of Wolf, What's to Misunderstand. Quite frankly, I don't misunderstand anything. I've got it, and I can't talk openly because we have our Operation Game Thief guy in here today, so I don't want to profile myself. Let's
That's
just say. Hey, really, is this book hit the bookstore shelves yet?
It's on its way. It's getting around, and I've sold quite a few already, and getting some feedback on it, which is always good to hear, and it's positive, and I hope it serves the purpose that I intended it to serve when I began writing it. Seems like a long time ago now, but you know, I think it's going to go well. It's not going to be received well by a lot of people, but you know, hopefully, you know, the title of the book, you know, What's to Understand. I kind of come up with that because I was getting really tired of the comments, you know, being, you know, people saying that the wolf is so misunderstood. And all that really is just it's a paradigm shift. It's this movement that's on, you know, everywhere in this country to talk about, you know, a wildlife in general, from a perspective that's just fake. It's unreal, and part of the What's to Understand, you know, or that wolves are misunderstood is just part of that new knowledge, if you will, that I write about in the book, and whatever, and people need to know that what they're being told these days about wildlife in general, but wolves specifically, is just a bunch of crap. Let's put it that way.
Well done.
We were talking about it too, and that
so
is
articulate, you know.
Tom, anthropomorphism, which is basically giving human emotions to wildlife, is running rampant ever since, I mean, if you go back to the 50s with Walt Disney, and I don't know that it was a solid intent, but certainly people give human emotions now to animals all the time. And the video clips that we see all the time are of animals portraying loving acts. And I understand that there are times when, you know, animals will do some very strange, very unique, and very loving things, but also the public is never really exposed to the lethal nature, particularly of wolves, and what they are capable of accomplishing and how they destroy. If you give the family values to a wolf, then you have to give it to the elk and to the deer and to the turkeys and everything else that's out there, because wolves are capable of destroying a family unit. Particularly, you know, I've seen enough of the videos with the big moose, and she's trying to defend her calf from a pack of wolves, and eventually she loses. But I mean, she gives up a valiant fight that's 5 minutes long, and I keep thinking, why was somebody just filming it? Why didn't they try and intervene in any way, shape, or form if they wanted to stop it? They would do that if somebody were attacking a wolf pack or a wolf den, but they won't do it when it's a beautiful wolf subsisting on the land. And the public doesn't see the devastation that they cause.
Oh, of course not. And for two reasons. One, they're not out there, you know, the majority of the public to witness it firsthand. But secondly, it's what we've been, you know, fed our brains since the day that we you know, we're born and we enter the education factories in this country, and, you know, forget math and how to read and write and talk in complete sentences. We got to learn how that, you know, animals have rights, they have feelings, and I've always said, you know, when I can sit down at the kitchen table, pour a cup of coffee with a wolf, and have a chat with him, I'll extend to him the same rights I have.
Thank you.
Well put.
But in the book, you know, I don't mince words when it comes to the American society and animals. In that regard, we live in an extremely perverse society when it comes to our pets and how we treat animals. And I mentioned in there that with everything that's going on, and I point out, first of all, it's very important, this aspect of when, and it still goes on, that when the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service decided that they were going to reintroduce wolves into the northern Rockies, and they wrote their environmental impact statement, they deliberately they left out of the entire environmental impact statement all aspects that had any impact on humans. Every single one of them. It was all about the wolf, and only the wolf. And because we left the human element out of it, people were never told what the repercussions would be. They disregarded history. They refused to examine historical accounts, I guess because it wasn't good enough for them. I really don't know. I can't answer that question. And they left they just refused to discuss it. Read the environmental impact statement, and it still goes on today. They don't care about the human element. And when you take that out of the equation, okay, then you really begin to see the perverseness in our society, that we put people's lives in danger, we steal their property, their rights are taken away over an animal. This is wrong. I'm sorry if you don't agree with me, but that's how I feel, and I think that I'm right, and I have reason to believe that I'm right. It's wrong, and it's really sad that we have reached this point in our society that we'll do that.
You take a look at it too, and there's 10% of the population, say 7 to 10%, that is wildly advocating the reintroduction of wolves and species, and they want people off the land. You have 10% that is the hunting community, 7 to 10%, that understands the benefits that hunting plays. But the key is we're trying to reach that 80% that is absolutely incredibly naive as to what is really going on with wildlife. They don't know. They're disconnected, and basically they are spoon-fed the beauty of the wolf by the people who are the advocates. We need to have people to say, okay, wait a minute, take a step back and take a look at what's really going on.
Well, there's only two sides of that equation, one who wants and those of us who don't want.
Again, but we still need to get the people who are disconnected to know, have that information and knowledge, and that's what Tom's book does.
Well, John, we've got a situation in this country, and I think Ferguson, Missouri, and I'm going to equate that back to the wolf issue. This is another opportunity for ignorant people to do ignorant things, period.
Well, it is, and it is that the largest percentage of the people, as John spoke, that, don't know the facts, and most, it's, boy, I can get on. I don't want to get off on tangents, but we've been programmed to be non-thinking people, and so we just willingly accept the information that we're fed as being fact. And when you have a media that is just, they just repeat what they've been told, and on it goes. And
Tom, I'm going to ask you to hold that thought. We've got to flip to a break, and
I could hear the music in the background.
Okay, cool. We'll be right back.
We want to hear more.
Tom Remington and the grand jury results. All righty, we're back. Back to you, Tom. Great book. I'm tracking on your editorial and about the book. Let me ask you this. Jim Beer is obviously one of the, like yourself, a leading authority on what's going on with the Fish and Wildlife Service. Do you have any excerpts from him in your book?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I have. Yeah, I'm seeing the book for the first time. I read a couple reviews. I'm familiar with Jim's work, and John's quite an authority on some of the backlash that he's unleashed.
There's, of course, there's Jim's, there's parts of his speeches that he's made about the corruption that existed, of how they got money to introduce the wolves, and also different things that he's written about.
Are you alluding to the $60 million that came out of the Pittman Robbins money that was never accounted for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and a key thing that he, that's part of it, and another key thing that he talks about, which kind of gets lost in the discussions, is that he made a telephone call to someone in the government. I'll just kind of leave it at that. To find out how these people got the permits to import wolves from Canada, and the person that he spoke to is the person who would know, said that they were never obtained. That's a bit more than circumstantial evidence, I would say, but just things like that that Jim has been able to provide for all of us, for knowledge and stuff to feast on. Did you guys happen to see the report that was released recently by the U.S. House Natural Resources Committee on best available science?
Oh, from Doc Hastings?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I beat my gavel a lot in the book about best available science and the corruption of that itself, because it's just, what is it? Hey, yeah, my mother makes the best pie. It's that sort of a scenario where, somebody gets to decide what they deem best available science.
If you have an agenda, then your best available science is going to be that which you determine to be the best available science. It's almost like the cook, the jury, the judge, and everybody. Absolutely. Those people who want the wolves have got the system knocked so well in place right now that it's never going to change the way with the current agenda items that have been in place with bringing in the wolves.
Well, we operate within a rigged system. And that's part of the system. It's part of what's wrong with the Endangered Species Act. Most people don't realize that the 10J section of the Endangered Species Act, that amendment came in 1978, was it?
At least that.
I might have the date wrong on that. But the reason that was put in there was at that point in time, they had determined they were going to do this wolf reintroduction, and it took nearly 20 years for it to happen. But it never could have happened if they hadn't put this fake, is what it is, 10J section, which makes no sense at all if you examine what it says and how they went about doing it.
Experimental, non-essential animals being brought back into historic range.
Sure, and if you follow the lawsuit, how many times were wolves not taken off the endangered species list because corrupt judges said, well, you can't create these boundaries to delist wolves in, yet they carved out a boundary and called it a non-essential experimental population.
Correct. Yep. Yellowstone.
It goes on like that. It's just, we're trying to operate honestly in a dishonest system, and it's a difficult thing to do.
Well, that's one of the problems that we have now with the Fish and Wildlife Service. They made a promise on the Mexican gray wolf war that we're talking about here in Arizona. 100 wolves. They've changed the rules of engagement. Now they won't put a cap on it, and
Oh, by the way, we're up to 300 to 325 currently.
Right.
You think that's going to hold?
No.
Dr. Charles K. when the U.S. Fish and Wildlife came out with a draft environmental impact statement in the Rockies, Dr. K, contacted Ed Bangs. I think it was Ed Bangs.
Ed Bangs, yep.
And asked him where they came up with the 30 breeding pair, 300 wolves, 100 in each of the 3 regions, where they come up with that number. And essentially, and I'm not quoting here, I'm just paraphrasing the information I received, through certain channels, is, well, they made it up.
Yeah.
And so because they made up that number, the entire environmental impact statement and all of the lies in it, and some people think I'm harsh when I say the lies in it, but that's what they are. All of the lies in it are based on no more than 300 wolves. Okay, there'll be no impact on game animals.
Oh, no. That
300 wolves.
The 5%. Yeah, 5%, no less than 5%, nor more than 30% of the Yellowstone elk herd will be consumed as a food base for this prey group. And now all of a sudden there's over 90% of the elk herd has disappeared from the Yellowstone. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's because hunters don't know where to go find them anymore because we're stupid.
Of course.
I get that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it we were lied to. What was it? Is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that incompetent, or are they that corrupt?
Well, they've been infiltrated.
A combination of both.
Absolutely, they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it began quite a while ago. But anyway, back to the book.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.
No, that's all right. I do have a long chapter in there about disease, which I think is very important. It spells out the realities of the disease and how that the Fish and Wildlife Service they chose to ignore, the evidence that existed, and it's all in there. All of the information, the resources, the footnotes, everything that people can go to if they care enough, they'll find out that, even the World Health Organization, they had everything that existed prior to wolf introduction, was there about the impact of disease and what it would have on the population. And again, the wolf recovery team, whatever you want to call them guys, they just chose to ignore it all, because it involved human beings. And they had to leave out the human element in the whole thing because, they didn't want anybody to know the truth of it.
Tom, you've got 330 pages of hard fact and, some pretty damn good reading on, a major issue in the U.S. We're hearing a lot of stuff coming out of Russia and Europe on wolves as well. And what's the best way to get a hold of your book?
The best and fastest way really is go on my website at tomremington.com. There's an ad right there. Click on it. Buy a book. I'll sign it, ship it right out to you. If you don't want to go through me personally, log on to Amazon. Both public print publication and a Kindle version is on Amazon right now, and it should be, if it isn't already, at Barnes & Noble as well.
Okay, and how do we sign up for your email?
Yep, go to tomremington.com, and right up in the upper right-hand corner, there's the place there. Just put in your email address, and you'll receive my daily updates, and I can begin brainwashing you.
Okay.
I love your brainwashing, Tom. Thank you so much for all you've done.
God love you, Tom. We'll have you back again in the next couple of weeks. Check him out, tomremington.com. Wolf, what's to misunderstand?
I love that man.
Nothing. We'll be right back.
I'm not worried about cutting the grass. Left my truck at the boat ramp and my boat is full of gas. My old boss thinks I'm sick today. He won't have me to harass. 'Cause I'm out here on the river and he can kiss my big old bass.
Anytime. James Guggenauer. our master rod builder from Rim Country Custom Rods in downtown Payson, where the weather is absolutely frightful. James, what are you doing, my man?
Hey, good morning, Don. Great morning up here.
I bet it is. What's the temp?
It was 27 at the house this morning.
Oh, I love that temperature. As long as there's no wind. You put the
you're
wind
27 degrees from not having a temperature at all. Nice.
Crybaby.
Oh, yeah. Hey, James, I have to thank you. You did an outstanding job at the roundtable meeting this past week. Outstanding. A lot of work, and we're seeing some big dividends coming out of the fisheries branch.
You know, and that is absolutely the talk up here in Rim Country. I couldn't even talk to guys about fishing. All they wanted to talk about was the great progress and where we've come over the last year with these meetings. When they first started, you know, it was hard to convince anybody that there was even a problem. And here we are a year later with commitments to put habitat into the lake and on the verge of having $100,000 to go buy stocked bass next year.
Well, you know, as we were talking with Josh, and say hey to Josh Hirsch from OGT here, you know, it takes a community to, you know, support our wildlife and the department, and we're seeing the community over there get engaged and stay engaged on this particular issue.
It does, and, you know, I agree with that. And it's not just Rim Country. And I know I said this to you on the air before, Don. It's guys like you that kind of stand in the background and direct us and keep us going down the right path. That makes those goals more achievable. So,
well, I think if this particular agenda goes the way it's going right now, we're getting back to, you know, a world-class bass fishery here in Arizona like we've had in the past.
I agree. I certainly hope that is, because, you know, one of the things we're telling, you know, the hundreds of people that donate is this isn't about you. It's about your kids or your grandkids being able to fish Roosevelt Lake.
Absolutely, it is.
You know, that's really what the ultimate goal is.
Well, going into 2015, we're going to open up a whole new chapter, and hopefully we'll be able to start holding some folks accountable that initially created this little incident, let's say.
Yeah, hope so.
All right, what's on the fishing report before I get myself in some hot water?
Fishing report was called good this past week, and what's going on is from the storms that we've been having up here, we've got a pretty good increased water flow into the lake. And that increased water flow seems to be keeping the bass pretty active, chasing the shad. Good reports on reaction baits, such as crankbaits, chatterbaits, and rattle traps this past week. But the depths that I'm getting are a little bit deeper than last week. Last week it was around the 5 to 10 foot range, and now we're talking more like 8 to 15 foot range.
Wow.
But and I asked guys, were they fishing their crankbaits fast or slow, and they said they were ripping them.
Burn them, yeah. Okay, now the next thing on the rattle trap is there's a couple of different versions of the rattle trap out there. Do you have one with a bead in it? Are those working better than the silent ones?
Yes.
Yes. Cool. Blackback or blueback?
Actually got reports on both is to be working, but you're right. Both anglers that I talked to had the BBs in them and said they were making a lot of noise and they were ripping them.
Okay, now one final question. There's a version out there that has a little touch of orange underneath the chin, or where would the gill plate would be, or not? Orange or no orange? You need to check that out.
I didn't get that. I'm going to go look at the bait.
I'm telling you what. Reason I bring that up. When I was fishing a team with Barry Lewis, Barry went back to fish Table Rock with Denny Bauer. Go figure. Rather fish with Denny than fish with me. But anyway, I'm holding up the team's honor fishing by myself over there. I caught 41 fish at Roosevelt in a all-star tournament. It's going back a few years. And the only thing that I could catch them on was the blueback with the orange blaze on it. Nothing else would work. I lost it, and I went from boat to boat begging, and finally John Andrews gave me another one. And the bad part about catching 41 fish over there, that was when the slot limit was in, I weighed 6.36 pounds. I will never, ever forget that tournament. Longest tournament of my life.
Hey, aren't you glad those days are gone, though?
Oh, man, yeah, I was so glad to see that slot limit go away. Woo!
I'll bet. One more comment that I received on these crankbaits. Guys are not spending a lot of time in every cove. You know, if they're fishing in 8 to 10 feet water, they're hitting a lot of different coves, and they said 2 or 3 casts in the backs of the cove will tell you if there are fish actively feeding on shad back there. And if they don't get any reaction on a few casts, they're out of there and moving on to the next cove.
Damn, time to run and gun, absolutely.
Yeah, keep in mind. Crappie fishing was mixed this past week. I talked to a couple of guys that were crappie fishing, and they said that they found schools in 25 to 30 feet of water, always near some type of structure or cover. But then I talked to other guys and said that they ran down the bank and they didn't see any schools of crappie anywhere, and they had a terrible day. So it's just kind of, you know, using your electronics, moving down the bank, and looking for those schools that are holed up around a brush or a rock pile.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yep. And lake level stands at 41% full. That's where we've been the last couple of weeks. The inflows in that I referred to earlier, this morning I was looking, the salt is flowing at 150% of its normal rate, and the tonneau is flowing at 81% of its normal rate. So good water coming in. We got snow up on the rim. We got snow on the Madazel Mountains. So all of that ultimately ends up in Rosebell Lake, and that's a good thing.
Well, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that 41% has been pretty stagnant for a while with all the water coming in. Who uses the dipstick to check the lake level?
There's actually 2 different sources that we use. One is the Salt River Project has a website that you can check lake water levels, and then the U.S. government has a website also. It's USGS, and it tells you the current flows, and it's actually
have you checked both of those to see if the numbers are consistent?
You know, they vary some because the one is updated like every hour, where the Salt River Project one is updated every day.
Okay.
And then they do go out monthly and recalibrate each of their equipment. So you get some variations in there, but you know, they're usually pretty close to what's going on.
Well, hopefully, if NOAA's correct on their weather assessment and you know, for the balance of the what winter we have left, hopefully we'll get into a situation where we need a longer dipstick for checking Roosevelt. So.
Yeah, that'd sure be nice.
Yeah, it would. I'd sure like to see that back up to 75 or 80%, but
yep.
I don't think that's in the cards. All right, any specials still going on for Christmas? Is there time to buy a custom Rim Country custom rod?
Well, there's not time to get a custom rod, but there certainly is time to get a gift certificate.
There you go.
We have those ready to send out. We can even email them, and they can be downloaded and printed if we want to go that way. And, you know, hey, want to thank everybody for the support in 2014. Want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and looking forward to next year.
Absolutely, and likewise to you, Jim. Give everybody our regards there in Payson.
Will do. Thanks so much, Don.
We'll talk to you next week. James Guggenauer, check him out, rimcountrycustomrods.com. Josh, thanks for putting up with us through, you know, all that. Tom Remington's got some good stuff out. I'm going to sign you up for his email. I mean, there's just so much tie-in from what he's talking about back in Maine and across the country, what's going on here. But one of the issues that we have out there we haven't touched on is littering and property damage out in the woods. What can we do to combat that?
Well, once again, you know, anytime that you're out in the woods, obviously you usually bring stuff with you, and we just ask that people continue to, pack stuff out or actually pick up more than they came with. And, we often see that during the dove hunts, where individuals, and we've made a big push of that over the years, of folks leaving their, empty hulls, their shotgun hulls, littering around. And, and those are types of things that, landowners that allow you access to go on and hunt their property will take away if it's not.
Well, an empty
done responsibly.
shotgun casing, that's pretty much non-biodegradable.
That's correct.
It'll
and also,
be there for hundreds of years.
It is, and when you have a farming operation or agricultural practices, it gets into farm implements and equipment and can do hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage really quick.
Wow.
And we just ask that people and encourage people to, respect private property and respect others' rights when you're out there.
Pick up your cases. Hey, we're going to flip into one more break, and when we come back, we're going to get this cleaned up with Josh Hurst from Operation Game Thief. We'll be right back.
'Twas the night before Christmas. He lived all alone in a one-bedroom house made of plaster and stone. I had come down the chimney with presents to give and to see just who in this home did live. As I looked all about, a strange sight I did see. No tinsel, no presents, not even a tree. No stocking by the fire, just boots filled with sand. On the wall hung pictures of a far distant land. With medals and badges, awards of all kinds, a sobering thought soon came to my mind. For this house was different, unlike any I'd seen. This was the home of a U.S. Marine. I'd heard stories about them, and I had to see more, so I walked down the hall and pushed open the door. And there he lay sleeping, silent, alone, curled up on the floor in his one-bedroom home. He seemed so gentle, his face so serene. Not how I pictured a U.S. Marine. Was this the hero of whom I just read, curled up in his poncho, a floor for his bed? His head was clean-shaven, his weathered face tan. I soon understood this was more than a man. For I realized the families that I saw that night owed their lives to these men who were willing to fight. Soon around the nation, the children would play and grown-ups would celebrate on a bright Christmas day. They all enjoyed freedom each month and all year because the Marines like this one lying here. I couldn't help wonder how many lay alone on a cold Christmas Eve in a land far from home. Just the very thought brought a tear to my eye. I dropped to my knees and I started to cry. He must have awoken, for I heard a rough voice. Santa, don't cry. This life is my choice. I fight for freedom. I don't ask for more. My life is my God, my country, my core. With that, he rolled over and drifted off into sleep. I couldn't control it. I continued to weep. I watched him for hours, so silent and still. I noticed he shivered from a cold night's chill. So I took off my jacket, the one made of red, and covered this Marine from his toes to his head. Then I put on his t-shirt of scarlet and gold, with an eagle, globe, and anchor emblazoned so bold. Although it barely fit me, I began to swell with pride. For one shining moment, I was Marine Corps deep inside. I didn't want to leave him so quiet in the night, this guardian of honor so willing to fight. But half asleep he rolled over, and a voice clean and pure said, "Carry on, Santa. It's Christmas Eve, all secure." One look at my watch, and I knew he was right. Merry Christmas, my friend. Semper Fi. And good night.
Boy, that's hard to follow. Wow.
Good luck.
Yeah, I want to thank Tim Andrews for that rendition. Josh, I want to thank you for coming down, and God love you for what you do. You guys are out there and kind of harm's way as well. You're our first responders out in the wilderness, and it's an arduous task keeping everybody straight.
I don't want to be the first person into a deer camp of poachers when you're by yourself and you got 8 guys sitting there with weapons.
Yeah, I agree, and I echo that sentiment. And one of the things that I can say about our officers, or any conservation officer for that matter, is that there's often people that everybody has somebody in their life that they're willing to die for, or risk their life for. And conservation officers are out there every day putting their life on the line for wildlife, for the benefit of all citizens, and it's an admirable trait. So
It's the truth.
Yeah,
And just
as
as
like
my own personal 2 cents for, you guys don't get paid enough, and we've had long conversations with a lot of people about that, ADOA, et cetera. You guys deserve more. End of story on that one.
Well, we can get caught up in pay and what have you, but the reason we all got into this is because we have a passion for wildlife, and I think sometimes it goes unnoticed that the level of commitment that's involved in being a wildlife officer or a conservation officer. You surely are putting your life on the line for wildlife, and you're willing to die for it. It means that much to you. So that's an important attribute.
That's very well stated. Out of the, I think we're up to about 650 department personnel at this point. There are a minor percentage that just have jobs, but I think the majority, like you're talking about, has a personal commitment and a passion to do what they do.
That's why they call it a career, because that's something they love to do.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we have folks that work for us for 35, 40 years. It's because they have a passion for what they do.
And some come back after they retire.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Rhymes with DeVos.
Yeah, big D. What's the OGT phone number?
The OGT phone number is 1-800-352-0700, and you find that on the back of your hunting license as well. And then we have a web submission opportunity. It's www.azgfd.gov/thief. And we encourage you to be engaged and contact the department and be the eyes and ears.
Oh, sure. Now you're going to get your hunting license out.
Well, mine doesn't have it. But
it must be
what? You have a
lifetime
Pioneer license?
Yeah, I have one of those special licenses.
Or a Pioneer. Is it a Pioneer license?
Yeah. No, that's a lifetime. Get off that Pioneer.
That's the geezer license.
Yeah, no, it's the lifetime.
Yeah. If you go into Denny's and flip that out, you won't get a discount.
That's right.
They'll make me bring
Great
in
stuff.
food.
One final thought. On the Shake, Rattle, and Troll website, you can sign up for the weekly newsletter that our webmaster does a great job. And one thing I want to bring to your attention, if you go to Veterans section, we keep a running tally of veterans, and certainly our Arizona National Guard. We have posted a historical overview of the 1st Battalion, 158th Infantry Regiment, known as the Bushmasters. They were actually founded in 1865, and they have been in every major battle and campaign on this planet, including going back to Afghanistan. But it's worth reading. It's some pretty cool stuff. And then, again, our thoughts and prayers out to Army Specialist Wyatt Martin's family about the 200th soldier. I'm going to have to check that.
It's close.
Resident soldier being killed in theater since it all started. So, other than that, we from Shake, Rattle, and Troll wish you a very Merry Christmas and best of the holiday seasons. Anything you want to add, Mr. President?
No, we've had a great year. A lot of things that have been accomplished. I look forward to next year. I hope everybody, again, has a safe and happy holiday. And we're all looking for more people who want to become actively involved in the outdoors and who want to give back to something that they've been so lucky to have had access to over the years in Arizona.
Let me ask you this. If someone wanted a ADA membership for a Christmas gift, how do they do that?
Go to azdeer.org. You can sign up right there. And the benefit is that you do learn what's going on, and if you participate in any way, shape, or form, you have an absolute say in the making of the direction of the way this organization is going to go, and you actually learn about what is going on with wildlife and how critically important it is. We're on a thread. I mean, mule deer have, in the last 30 years, the herd's been cut by over half.
And there's more coming with the introduction of the
MGW.
The wolves.
Yeah. MGW is basically it. You know what? Thank goodness that they were spoon-fed dead elk off the sides of the roads, because that has become the soup du jour for them. They love elk.
And can we change their habit if we feed them Starbucks?
I'm not worried about Starbucks, but I think wild stallion would be great for those guys to learn to eat.
That's a whole nother road we're going to go down after the first of the year. Josh, is there anything you want to add?
No, I just want to thank you for having me on the show today, and have a Merry Christmas, and thank you for all your support.
We'd like to see you down here more
Yeah,
often.
don't be a stranger.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we're here to support you, the department.
Kiss to watch me by, grab your favorite pole, 'cause me and the boys gonna share